Imagine awakening to discover that the lessons you learned about Jesus have undergone a meticulous revision. This was not a mere coincidence, but a deliberate act of power. A change so profound that part of his message has been turned upside down, hiding the truth. The early Christians, known as the Gnostics, believed the world was not just flawed, but a crafted prison. The deception was so complete that those trapped within it rarely, if ever, suspected they were prisoners at all. They believed that Jesus did not come to save people from sin, but to wake them up from a dream they had mistaken for reality. The world, as most know it, is a facade. The pain, suffering, and limitations are not natural, but imposed. The Gnostics called the architect of this false world the demiurge, a being of immense power, yet deeply flawed. He created the material world not out of love, but out of ignorance, fashioning a realm designed to keep divine souls distracted, enslaved by their senses, and bound by illusion. He was a liberator. He did not liberate humanity from punishment, as many believe, but rather, he broke them free from the illusion itself. His mission was not about suffering and death, but knowledge and awakening. In the lost Gnostic texts, Jesus did not plead for obedience or faith in an institution. He spoke in riddles and parables, designed not to preach, but to unlock hidden understanding in those who were ready to hear. He told them the kingdom of God was not in the sky, not in a temple, but within them. The rulers of the world could not allow such an idea to spread. A society built on control depends on people believing they are weak, sinful, and in need of external authority. If people realized that the divine spark, God's essence, was within them, fear would disappear. They would no longer need priests, rulers, or saviors. The Gnostic texts describe a Jesus unlike the one found in mainstream Christianity. He does not claim to be the only Son of God, but rather a guide, showing others the way to their own divine nature. His miracles too take on a deeper meaning. Healing the blind was not about physical sight, but spiritual awareness. Walking on water was not about defying physics, but mastering the illusion of the material world. Even the crucifixion was not what it seemed. In some Gnostic writings, Jesus does not suffer on the cross at all. He laughs. His true self, his divine essence, is untouched. The body is just a shell, a temporary prison that never truly held him. Death is not an end, but an escape. And those who understand this are no longer bound by fear. Judas, too, is transformed in the Gnostic version of events. Far from being a villain, he is the only disciple who truly understands Jesus' mission. The Gospel of Judas describes him as the one chosen to help Jesus shed his earthly body, setting his spirit free from the demiurge's grasp. His betrayal was not an act of treachery, but a necessary step in Jesus' liberation. The Last Supper, too, is reimagined. Instead of being a solemn farewell before death, it becomes a final lesson in awakening. The bread and wine are not symbols of sacrifice, but of knowledge. Taking them in is not about remembering Jesus' suffering, but about absorbing his understanding, becoming like him, and transcending the illusions of the world. The early church, seeking unity and control, could not allow these ideas to spread. The early church banned the Gnostic texts, labeled their followers as heretics, and burned their writings. What remained was a version of Christianity that emphasized obedience over self-discovery, sin over inner power, and faith in an external authority over knowledge of the divine within. Remember to join our community by subscribing to this channel. But truth, as a way of surviving, hidden away for centuries, the lost Gospels resurfaced in the 20th century, unveiling a suppressed version of Jesus' teachings. These teachings challenge the conventional understanding of human existence. Teachings that suggest salvation is not something to be granted or earned, but something to be realized. The Gnostics believed that every person has something special inside them, a piece of the true God. However, people often forget this divine aspect. They get too busy worrying about their problems, following rules, or chasing things that don't really matter. It's like being in a deep sleep and not realizing that you're dreaming. Jesus' message in the Gnostic texts was simple: wake up. He wasn't telling people they were bad. He informed them that their belief in their weakness, powerlessness, and sinfulness was a deception. He wasn't saying, "Oh, I will save you." He was saying, "You already have the power to save yourself. You just don't know it yet." This was a dangerous idea. Think about it. If everyone believed they didn't need priests, churches, or religious leaders to be saved, then those leaders would lose their power. If people knew they had a divine spark inside them, they wouldn't need someone else to tell them how to live. Therefore, the authorities ensured the erasure of this version of Jesus' story. They told people that the only way to be saved was through obedience, following rules, and believing what they were told. The Gnostic texts, which told a different story, were banned. They called those who believed in them heretics and silenced them. In the Lost Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says, "If you bring out what is inside you, it will save you. If you don't, it will destroy you." It means that inside every person is something powerful. But if they never realize it, they will stay trapped in a life full of fear and confusion. Jesus wasn't saying, "I will save you." He was saying, "Look inside yourself and you will find the truth." In another part of the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says, "The kingdom of God is inside you and all around you." The kingdom of God does not reside in structures made of wood and stone. Lift a rock and I am there. Split a piece of wood and you will find me. This contradicts the majority of people's beliefs. It implies that one cannot find God in a church, a book, or a set of rules. God is everywhere and inside each person. The idea that Jesus came to wake people up is exciting, but also a little scary. It means that the world around you isn't what it seems. Most people spend their lives chasing things that don't really matter. They work, worry, and follow the rules, hoping they are doing enough to be accepted. They learn that their behavior might lead to their eventual salvation. But the Gnostics believed this was all a trick. Jesus came to point to the exit. In most Christian teachings, Jesus' crucifixion is the most important moment. It is seen as the moment when he took on the sins of the world and allowed people to be saved. But the Gnostics saw it differently. They believed that Jesus was never trapped in his body to begin with. When he was crucified, it wasn't a moment of pain and defeat. It was a moment of escape. His body was just a shell, something temporary, and he had already transcended beyond it. This version of Jesus' story gives two very different choices. Believe that humans are weak and sinful, and that salvation comes only through obedience, suffering, and faith in religious institutions. Believe that humans already have a divine spark inside them, and that salvation comes from understanding the truth, thinking for yourself, and breaking free from fear. The world still tries to keep people asleep. Schools teach facts, but not wisdom. Governments set laws, but discourage deep thinking. Religions preach about sin instead of inner strength. Most people believe what they can't see and touch is the ultimate reality. But the Gnostics compared it to a dream, a fog, a veil covering the truth. The material world is filled with suffering, greed, corruption, and death. But instead of questioning why things are this way, people are taught to accept it as normal. They are told that pain, loss, and struggle are just part of life. The Gnostics rejected this idea. They believed that humans were never meant to be trapped in physical bodies, and that the world's suffering was not a test or punishment, but a design flaw. The demiurge, the being who created this world, was powerful but deeply flawed, selfish and ignorant. He shaped the universe, not out of love, but out of his own desire for control. He built a world where people will be bound to physical bodies, ruled by emotions, and trapped in a cycle of birth and death, never remembering where they came from. Unlike traditional Christianity, which teaches that Jesus came to redeem the world, the Gnostics believed he came to expose it as a lie. He wasn't here to heal the world. He was here to help people wake up and see that they don't belong to it. In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says, "Whoever has come to know the world has discovered a corpse, and whoever has discovered a corpse, of that person, the world is not worthy." One of the biggest differences between the Gnostic view and mainstream Christianity is the way they see the body. Traditional Christian teachings say that the body is created by God and is good. It can be purified through faith and is part of God's perfect plan. The Gnostics disagreed completely. They saw the body as a temporary cage, a distraction that keeps people focused on hunger, pain, desires, and fears. The body needs food. It gets sick. It ages. It weakens. It constantly pulls attention towards survival, pleasure, and comfort, keeping people from seeking deeper spiritual truth. Jesus' message, in their view, was that you are not your body. You are something greater, something that existed before the world was even created. The Gnostics taught that the goal of life was not to please the body, but to rise above it, to free the mind and spirit from its control. People learn to focus solely on the physical world from the moment they are born. They learn that success means having money, power, and status. People advise them to pursue happiness through possessions, relationships, and experiences. But these things never bring true fulfillment. No matter how much a person achieves or owns, they always feel like something is missing. The Gnostics believe this emptiness exists because people are searching for meaning in the wrong place. The material world never intended to bring them happiness, but rather to divert their attention. Jesus' true teachings, according to the Gnostics, were a call to stop looking for happiness in the illusion and start seeking truth beyond it. If the world is a prison, then how does someone escape it? The Gnostics believed that the answer was knowledge. Gnosis. Are you enjoying the story? Support our channel by clicking the subscribe button. Not the kind of knowledge taught in schools, but deep inner awareness. You understand that this world is not your true home. You understand that your body is not who you are. You embody an eternal, divine, and powerful essence. Jesus' role in this view was not to demand worship, but to help people remember who they really are. He taught that when a person reaches true understanding, they will no longer be trapped by fear, pain, or even death, they will see beyond the illusion and return to the divine source from which they came. This is why the Gnostics saw Jesus' resurrection differently. It was not about a physical body coming back to life. It was about breaking free from the material world entirely. The Gnostics believed that the world is filled with distractions, things designed to keep people from asking deeper questions. Society teaches that truth comes from outside sources, religious leaders, governments, books, and traditions passed down through generations. But Gnosis isn't something that can be taught by others. It must be discovered within. This explains why Jesus uses parables, symbols, and hidden meanings in the Gnostic texts. He wasn't giving people easy answers. He was pushing them to think for themselves. His real teachings weren't about obeying rules or fearing punishment, but about looking beyond the surface of reality to uncover the deeper truth. In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says, "Let the one who seeks continue seeking until he finds. When he finds it, he will be troubled. When he is troubled, he will be astonished, and he will rule over all." At first, searching for Gnosis can feel uncomfortable. It shakes everything a person thought they knew. But once they begin to see clearly, they realize that they have been trapped in an illusion their whole life. And once they break free from that illusion, nothing can control them anymore. Most religions teach that faith is the key to salvation. Faith means trusting in something you can't see or prove. But the Gnostics believed that faith alone wasn't enough. Instead of believing blindly, they taught that people needed to seek knowledge, direct experience of the divine. Imagine two people standing in front of a locked door. One person believes that behind the door is a treasure because they were told so. The other person doesn't just believe. They find the key, unlock the door, and see the treasure for themselves. That's the difference between faith and Gnosis. Faith is hoping something is true. Gnosis is knowing it beyond any doubt. To the Gnostics, Jesus was offering the key, not just telling people to believe, but showing them how to unlock the truth for themselves. The Gnostics taught that every person carries a spark of the true, divine source deep inside them. This spark is what connects them to something greater, something beyond the material world. But this divine spark is buried beneath layers of distraction, daily struggles, fears, desires, and the constant noise of the world. People are taught to focus on money, power, social status, and physical comfort, keeping them so busy that they never stop to ask, "Who am I really?" Jesus' true message, according to the Gnostics, was that people are not just physical beings. They are something far greater. And the way to remember the truth is true Gnosis, inner realization, self-discovery, a direct connection with the divine. Once a person awakens to this truth, they can no longer be controlled by fear, guilt, or authority. They become free. If the Gnostic teachings were true, then people wouldn't need churches, priests, or religious institutions to connect with God. They wouldn't need to obey rules written by men or live in fear of punishment. They would realize that everything they need is already inside them. This idea was a threat to those in power. Religious leaders and rulers built entire systems based on control. If people stopped believing they needed those systems, the power structures would collapse. In the Secret Gospel of Judas, a text lost for nearly 2,000 years, Jesus speaks to Judas privately and reveals a shocking truth. Jesus tells Judas that the physical world is not real, that it was created by an ignorant, false god, the demiurge. He explains that his real purpose is to help souls wake up and return to the divine source. But there's a problem. As long as Jesus remains in his human body, he is trapped in the physical world. The only way to complete his mission is to leave his body behind. According to this lost gospel, Jesus asked Judas to hand him over to the authorities, not as an act of betrayal, but as an act of liberation. Judas is not the enemy. He is the only disciple who truly understands what must be done. While the other disciples misunderstand Jesus' teachings and cling to the physical world, Judas sees the truth. That is why, in this version of the story, Jesus tells him, "You will exceed all of them, for you will sacrifice the man that clothes me." The man that clothes me is Jesus' physical body, the temporary vessel that holds his true divine self. By allowing Jesus to be arrested, Judas helps him shed his earthly form and return to his true eternal existence. In mainstream Christianity, the crucifixion is seen as a painful sacrifice, Jesus suffering to take on the sins of the world. It is a moment of pain, punishment, and atonement. Before his arrest, Jesus shared one final meal with his disciples, the Last Supper. In traditional Christian teachings, this moment is remembered as the foundation of the Eucharist, where Jesus gives his body and blood for the forgiveness of sins. But the Gnostics saw this event very differently. For them, Jesus wasn't telling his followers to focus on his death. He was teaching them how to awaken. In the Gospel of Philip, another lost text, the Last Supper is not about sacrifice. It is about transformation. The bread and wine were not about suffering, but about taking in Jesus' hidden knowledge. Instead of saying, "This is my body broken for you," Jesus was showing them how to let go of their attachment to the physical world and embrace their divine nature. To the Gnostics, the Last Supper was a lesson in spiritual awakening, not an act of atonement. The traditional story of Jesus teaches that his sacrifice was about taking on the sins of humanity, but the Gnostics rejected this idea. There has always been a division in the world between those who follow orders and those who challenge them. The Gnostics belong to the second group. Religious authorities, rulers, or institutions could not dictate truth to them. They sought gnosis, direct personal knowledge of the divine. But those in power saw gnosis as dangerous. A person who discovers their own divine essence is no longer afraid. They do not bow to kings, fear religious punishment, or follow blindly. They become independent, free-thinking, and untouchable by control. That is why the Gnostic texts were destroyed. This led to the erasure of their teachings, because their message did not teach people to obey. It taught them to awaken. But truth has a way of surviving. The lost Gospels, hidden for centuries, have resurfaced, offering a new perspective for those willing to listen. If the Gnostics were right, then most of what people believe about reality is wrong. The world is not a gift from a perfect God, but a flawed creation by a lesser being. The body is not a blessing, but a prison. Salvation is not about waiting for heaven, but waking up to the truth while still alive. If you are enjoying this story, consider clicking super thanks. Your support helps uncover and share more hidden truths, bringing these lost teachings to light. This implies that, contrary to popular belief, Jesus did not come to save people. He did not come to build churches or create religious institutions. He came to pull back the curtain and reveal that everything people assume about life, purpose, and existence is a carefully crafted deception. His mission was not to lead followers, but to create seekers. The goal was never to simply believe. It was to understand, to see beyond the illusion, to reclaim the divine truth hidden within. The truth has always been uncomfortable. It challenges everything people think they know. It forces them to reconsider their beliefs, their choices, and their place in the world. That is why most people ignore it. It is easier to follow the crowd than to seek your own path. It is safer to accept the story that has already been written than to question if that story is even real. But for those who are willing to look deeper, who dare to seek knowledge rather than comfort, the Gnostic Jesus offers a path that has been hidden for centuries. It is not an easy path. It demands questioning everything. It requires letting go of the idea that salvation comes from the outside, from priests, from books, from rituals. Instead, it demands that a person look within. Most will turn away from this path. They will choose what is familiar, what is safe. Despite the silence surrounding the Gnostics, their message persisted. Their lost writings have re-emerged, their teachings have survived, and their questions remain as powerful as ever. If Jesus was really here to awaken people, not control them, if the physical world is truly a prison, not a paradise, if salvation comes not from faith, but from understanding, then everything changes. Thanks for watching. Join our community by subscribing to this channel. Until the next video.